The monsoon rains had been relentless, turning rivers into furious torrents that swallowed everything in their path. In a small rural village in Sri Lanka, life had once moved slowly, in harmony with the rhythm of the land. But now, the floodwaters had turned the familiar into the dangerous, the calm into chaos. The mud-choked river ran fast, carrying debris, fallen trees, and the remnants of homes with it. Every sound, the rush of water, the cracking of wood, the distant cries of people, reminded the villagers that nature's power was absolute. On the edge of the swollen riverbank, a golden-maned lion stood, chest deep in the brown, churning floodwater. Her mane was soaked, heavy with rain, strands clinging to her determined face. In her strong forearms, two tiny lion cubs clung, their small bodies trembling and soaked, eyes wide with fear. Every muscle in the mother's body was tense as she fought the current, the water rushing past her like a living thing, attempting to sweep her and her cubs away. The cubs mewed softly, their voices barely audible over the roar of the flood. One tiny paw clung desperately to her shoulder, while the other clawed at her wet fur. The mother lion lowered her head against the wind, her amber eyes fixed on the far bank, a patch of higher mud that promised safety. The current tugged, twisted, and tried to topple her, but she refused to yield. Far in the distance, villagers stood on the highest patch of remaining land, their feet sinking into thick, sticky mud. Men, women, and children, all coated in mud from the relentless storm, looked on in shock. Their brightly colored clothes, muted now by the layers of water and earth, clung to them, dripping with rain. Faces reflected a mixture of fear, awe, and disbelief. Some raised their arms instinctively, as if to shield themselves, while others pressed hands to their mouths, unable to tear their eyes away from the brave lion battling the flood. The houses behind them leaned at precarious angles, some half submerged, others already toppled by the water's fury. Trees, stripped of leaves and torn from their roots, lay across the flood, floating like broken logs. Every inch of the landscape was mud, water, and debris. There was no greenery, no grass, just destruction stretching far into the horizon. The lion shifted, muscles rippling under her soaked fur, moving carefully but steadily through the raging water. She navigated around floating logs and debris, ears pinned back against the wind, teeth clenched slightly as she kept her cubs close. Each step was a battle. The cubs whimpered again, their tiny bodies pressed tighter against her chest. She paused briefly, assessing the flood. The path ahead was littered with fallen trees, tangled branches, and swirling mud. One misstep could mean disaster. She drew a deep, wet breath and pushed forward. Her powerful legs churned against the current, her paws barely finding purchase on the invisible riverbed below. The cubs' tiny heads peeked from under her wet forearms, their eyes scanning the rushing water in fear. Yet, they trusted her completely. They did not struggle. They knew somehow that she would not let anything happen to them. The younger cub, barely 2 weeks old, shivered violently. Its tiny mews echoed faintly above the roar of the flood. The older cub nuzzled it instinctively, trying to calm its sibling. The mother lion shifted slightly, her massive paws pushing against the current, maneuvering them around a large, fallen tree. Mud and water splashed around them in violent waves, but her grip never faltered. A large log suddenly collided with the mother lion's side, spinning her slightly. She growled, a low, deep rumble that resonated through the air, before regaining her stance. Her eyes, sharp and focused, scanned the chaotic water. There was no hesitation, no fear, only determination. Every instinct screamed survival, for herself and for her cubs. In that moment, the villagers gasped. The courage and sheer power of the lion were almost unreal. Children pressed against their mothers, some hiding behind their legs, while others could not look away from the heroic sight unfolding before them. Step by careful step, the lion advanced. The floodwater surged around her, carrying mud and broken branches, but she moved like a force of nature herself, her eyes fixed on a slightly higher, safer patch of land across the flood. She could feel the current weakening slightly, the water less aggressive, and the path clearer. The cub's small bodies pressed against her chest, their tiny claws scratching at her wet fur, seeking reassurance. She tilted her head gently toward them, licking one quickly to comfort and calm them. Their mews softened as they felt her presence, a warmth and protection stronger than the chaos surrounding them. The villagers' expressions shifted. Relief and joy began to mix with their awe. Some raised their hands in silent prayer. Others shouted encouragement across the distance, even though the roaring flood swallowed their voices. They could see that the lion, though surrounded by water and debris, had found a path to safety. One brave child, standing on a small mound of mud, pointed toward the lion. "Look, she's going to make it," the child shouted, voice cracking with excitement and hope. The mother's determination seemed to amplify at the sound of life, a reminder that even in total destruction, hope persisted. The last stretch of water was the most dangerous. The current narrowed between two fallen trees, creating a swirling vortex of mud and debris. The mother lion adjusted her stance, muscles flexing, pushing harder than ever. Her paws churned through the thick mud beneath the flood, claws gripping what little she could. The cubs clung desperately, tiny bodies trembling but safe in her hold. A wave of water crashed over them, soaking her mane even more. But she did not falter. Slowly, painfully, she emerged from the worst of the torrent. Her body was battered, but her resolve remained unbroken. Finally, the lion reached a slightly higher patch of mud, just enough to be out of the fast-moving current. She lowered her cubs gently, allowing them to wobble unsteadily on their tiny legs. The cubs looked around, eyes wide, shivering but safe. The mother nuzzled each cub, licking them clean of mud, her expression softening for the first time since the journey began. The danger had passed for now. The flood continued around them, muddy waves still churning and carrying debris. But here, on this small island of safety, the family could breathe. The villagers, far on their distant patch of land, erupted in quiet celebration. Some clapped hands, some shouted words of relief, while others simply watched, mesmerized by the scene. The mother lion and her cubs had survived against impossible odds. In their eyes, the floodwaters were no longer just a disaster, they were a testament to courage, maternal love, and survival. Children pointed repeatedly at the lion cubs, faces brightening with fascination and admiration. Even the adults, coated in mud, wet from head to toe, could not help but smile at the bravery and instinct of the wild creature before them. In the chaos of the monsoon flood, among the mud, fallen trees, and broken homes, life had persisted. The lion had become more than an animal. It was a symbol of courage, of love, and of hope in the face of nature's overwhelming power. The cubs, tiny and trembling, now huddled safely with their mother. The villagers, though far from the heroics, carried the memory of the rescue with them, a reminder that even in the darkest, most dangerous moments, bravery and love can shine through. As the waters continued to surge, Mother Lion and her cubs settled on their small patch of mud, wet, muddy, and exhausted, but alive. And in the distance, the villagers watched, hearts warmed by the courage of a lion who would never let her children face danger alone.